I mean, this is just classic collusive monopoly behavior. And your testimony is you can't accept why is it that small businesses continue to use Visa and MasterCard when you're getting charged so much more? The DOJ lawsuit says that you threaten retailers with staggering financial penalties. That's a quote, staggering financial penalties if they use a competitor, and you're paying Apple and Square and others not to compete in your market.
Senator Josh Hawley's hearing confrontation exposed the credit card cartel by forcing profit margins into the open. Visa and MasterCard acknowledge margins above 50% while controlling roughly 80% of the market. Small businesses face higher interchange fees than Walmart, costing Missouri alone about $1.5 billion yearly, turning everyday card swipes into unavoidable penalties for merchants nationwide today.
Customers matter to our business.
Maybe is it because that Visa and MasterCard are effectively monopolies? They control 80% of the market?
Certainly part of the
80% of the market? I'm just having a hard time understanding.
Now they tried to answer like people who are used to never answering, circa 50%, slightly higher than 50%. I remember pausing the video because that kind of honesty usually never makes it onto the record. 50% profit margins do not belong in industries that claim to be essential infrastructure. They belong in scams, monopolies, or fantasies. Hearing it said out loud flipped the room instantly.
And yet your testimony is, please, we can't possibly have any competition. I mean, let's talk about what you're doing to consumers who hold your cards. Last year, as I understand it,
I could hear Hawley do what very few senators still know how to do. He reacted like a human being. He said it was unbelievable because it actually is unbelievable. No committee language, no gentle framing, just a blunt reaction that made it clear this conversation was no longer about policy tweaks. It was about extraction. From that second onward, control moved away from the witnesses and never came back.
And you have 80% of the relevant market in the credit card interchange fees that we're talking about, and yet you couldn't survive if there's any competition? What am I missing?
Then Hawley did something even more uncomfortable. He brought Walmart into the room, not symbolically, directly. He asked a question that had already been dodged once, and he forced it back onto the table. What interchange fee does Walmart pay? The answer was perfect in the worst way. They did not have it with them. Executives running the most profitable payment networks in the country somehow could not recall what the largest retailer in the country pays.
And you're paying Apple and Square and others not to compete in your market. You've got 80% market share, and you are paying off would-be competitors not to come into the market while you charge people like Mr. Callahan, who knows how much more than big entities like Walmart.
I could almost hear the sarcasm writing itself. Walmart negotiates based on volume. Walmart is gigantic. Walmart gets a better deal. They said it plainly once pushed hard enough. Volume discounts for the biggest players, full freight for everyone else. The system does not hide this. It just assumes no one will say it out loud.
30% interest rate should be charged on debt like this. I don't understand it, and I don't understand why you won't accept the smallest modicum of competition when it comes to these retailer fees. And I'm just here to tell you, this will not stand. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
At that point, the hearing stopped, pretending to be philosophical. Hawley moved into math, real math. Visa and MasterCard control roughly 80% of the market, not influence, control. That number explains everything that came before it. That number explains why small businesses stay. That number explains why prices never fall.
You have a business model, you're making over 50% profit margin. You are able to give the shaft to small businesses. Estimated cost to Missouri businesses from these fees is...
Then came the Missouri number, $1.5 billion every single year. That is what small businesses in one state alone pay in interchange fees. I had to replay that too. One state, 1 year. It reframes the conversation from annoyance to extraction. It explains why profit margins sit comfortably above 50% without shame.
Missouri businesses from these fees is $1.5 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars a year. Why aren't all of these businesses running away from this model? Because they don't have a choice, because you control so much of the market.
Hawley asked the obvious question that no one in power usually asks. Why do these businesses not run away? He answered it himself because the answer is obvious. They cannot. Market dominance removes exit. Control replaces choice. The idea of competition becomes a story executives tell regulators while collecting rents from everyone below them.
This is classic monopolistic behavior, and yet your testimony here today is you don't want any competition. You have 80% of the market, but you don't.
When Hawley called it classic monopolistic behavior, it did not sound rhetorical to me. It sounded descriptive. Market share that large creates pricing power. Pricing power removes alternatives. The lack of alternatives forces participation. Forced participation sustains profit margins.
Competition. I'm having a hard time finding that position defensible, let alone sympathetic. I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of money that you're making. It's unbelievable what you're charging small businesses and.
I watched Hawley widen the frame and drag consumers into a room that executives prefer to keep sterile. He talked about scale, not sympathy. 726 million credit cards issued in this country, roughly 2 for every human walking around. That number alone explains the silence. When exposure gets that big, responsibility gets blurry. Everyone claims distance. Everyone pretends the system runs itself while people live inside it. Comfort comes from pretending ignorance is same thing as innocence.
126 million Visa and MasterCard credit cards issued in the United States. That's about 2 for every 1 person in the United States of America. Do either of you know how much debt is owed on your networks, Ms. Kirkpatrick?
We're not the bank, so we don't have visibility into that information. We also don't generate revenue from interchange.
Then came the part executives always dodge: debt. Hawley asked them what consumers owe on their networks, and they answered like tourists. They said they did not know. They said they were not banks. They said interest was not their business. I heard a masterclass in selective blindness. When profit flows through a system, knowledge somehow stops at the edge of accountability. Ignorance sounded rehearsed, polished, and convenient in a room built for forgetting faces and numbers carry consequences eventually.
Okay, you have no idea. Mr. Sheedy, do you know?
I don't know.
Well, let me help you out. Let's have a look. It's $1.17 trillion.
Hawley did not let that fog sit. He brought receipts. $1.17 trillion in credit card debt, not theoretical exposure, real balances, real households. I felt the room tighten because numbers like that do not float, they sink. Then he dropped the interest rate, 28.75% on average, nearly double in 4 years. Silence followed. This was the cost side of convenience nobody on stage wanted discussed openly because truth disrupts comfortable profits. What struck me was the contrast Hawley kept sharpening. Record profit margins for networks, record debt loads for consumers. The math lined up cleanly. Wealth moved upward, while risk stayed below. Executives sat untouched by the interest rates that defined their success. They spoke in abstractions while families paid monthly penalties disguised as access. I watched accountability dissolve as responsibility got passed like a card swipe. Fast, frictionless, and invisible until the bill arrived later with interest compounding quietly inside. Then, Hawley turned the lights on in the competition theater. He referenced the Justice Department lawsuit accusing Visa of monopolizing debit networks. Not speculation, litigation. He pointed to the Federal Trade Commission consent decree with MasterCard. Patterns emerged. Enforcement did not appear suddenly. It followed years of behavior that only looks normal when nobody names it out loud. I heard corporate confidence shrink as paperwork replaced press releases. Because lawsuits speak in penalties, not narratives and numbers, refuse emotional spin every time. If this breakdown matters to you and to every small business getting squeezed in silence, hit like and subscribe so this story stays loud and cannot be buried again. Hawley described conduct that sounded familiar to anyone who has watched cartels operate. Retailers threatened with staggering financial penalties for choosing competitors. Payments made to Apple and Square to stay out of the market. I did not hear innovation. I heard gatekeeping. The same people claiming love for competition were busy writing checks to prevent it. That contradiction felt deliberate, rehearsed, and protected by regulatory exhaustion. I recognized power preserving itself through contracts and fear instead of service and trust. When Hawley backed capping credit card interest rates, I heard the line finally snap. 29 to 30% on household debt made no sense in any defensible system. He asked why it existed. No one answered. I recognized that silence. It meant justification ran out. High rates survived because power allowed them. Markets do not create that outcome. Control does. I felt the proposal cut through ideology and theater with a blunt demand for restraint on debt-driven revenue. He ended without ceremony. This structure will not stand. I believed him because exposure changed the tone of everything before it. This hearing stopped being discussion. It became a warning. Numbers spoke. Silence admitted. The cartel stood visible under lights it avoided for years. I watched a system realize scrutiny finally arrived. Control thrives in darkness and hesitates under sustained attention. I saw confidence fade as accountability entered the conversation without permission or apology from people used to silence before.